In Jacksonville, Florida team. What's up, Emily?
Hello, hello. How are you doing, Greg?
Good. I'm Greg DiTilio, and I've got Emily Engel, my co-host for tonight, and we are the Living in Jacksonville, Florida team. Welcome to our channel on Thursday night, 8 o'clock, and tonight we have a special evening planned. We're going to start going on about a review of 2023 here in Jacksonville. Naturally, we're the Living in Jacksonville team, so
Of
we're going to
course.
talk about everything that went on this year so you can break it down. And what that does for you is if you weren't aware of what's going on in Jacksonville, because it's such a big city and we have so many counties here and suburbs. I think we have 7 counties. And you're not aware of what's going on, this will catch you up to date of what's going on, because we're having massive growth here in this city already. And for those of you who are considering living here, this is really going to give you a good idea of what's going on in this Northeast Florida region, what we're anticipating on the future with all the massive growth, and also give you a little taste of lifestyle too, because we're going to cover, like, we're going to talk about dining, development, and then of course, we are a real estate team, so we're going to talk about the big thing that happened this year, which was rates shooting up to record highs and then coming back down. It's been such a volatile year in real estate. So a lot to talk about here. We're literally going to go through January through till now. And I've been super fortunate this year to formulate this team and have Emily join me on board and really help a lot of families out this year. And I will tell you that the migration to Florida is definitely still happening. In this year, I would say 80%, Emily, of my
Yeah.
clients were from out of state. 80%. I was looking through the list today, and I'm like, just so you know, it's not just New York and California. Just so everybody knows, for all my people out there from New York and California, it's not just you, but it was a good amount of you. So I want to add to anybody who's watching tonight that's tuning in, please tell us where you're watching from. Feel free to ask any questions, just post it there, and we will certainly address any questions that you have. But to going back to where we're seeing people moving from this year, I mean, I've had people in Vermont, Massachusetts. I've had people, of course, Chicago, Illinois, Virginia, Tennessee, DC. I mean, even Georgia. I mean, Emily, you're from the Georgia region, and we bought a place up there. So it's not just California or Washington and New York or New Jersey. We're seeing people moving from all over the country to Florida and considering Jacksonville for many reasons. And we're going to talk about that because a lot of things happened this year, which is giving us an indicator of why Jacksonville is becoming an amazing option for people considering moving to Florida.
Definitely.
So let's talk about, the first thing and get that out of the way. We're going to go ahead and address like the volatility of interest rates. And certainly in certain parts of the country, it's affected the real estate market. But I will be humble to say that, we were still trucking along pretty busy this year, regardless. Definitely a few pauses, which, Emily, you want to go ahead and pull up that interest rate chart?
You got it. Here we go.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see there in January, we started seeing rates at 7%, and we've been riding this gravy train from 3%, 2.75%, and now 7% in January. Gave us a little bit of hope in February, going down to 6%, and then back up again in March. Talk about a roller coaster ride. Just looking at these rates, 7, down to 6, back up to 7, down to 6. 7, 7.5. Then it started just going up 7, 8. Who would have thought in October we would have seen 8.45%? And I felt really bad because a lot of my people, basically, the lowest point of the year was in February, and then the highest point was October. And new construction which is one of our big specialties here in Northeast Florida. We have so much development. There's not a lot of resales because of people locking in those lower rates. We're seeing a lot of people opt for new construction. And the tough part about that, Emily, is that I had clients that basically, decided to buy a new construction home, and that takes anywhere from 9 to 12 months. And they were pre-approved with their lender at maybe 5.5, 6%. And then their build was complete, let's say in, March, they would have been at 7.3%, but they were pre-approved at 4.5, 5%, almost a year before, maybe not 5%, maybe a little bit higher, 5.5. But then when they came to the closing table, the rates were at 7.6. And when you're doing new construction, you can only lock in maybe up the closest time is maybe 60 days if you're fortunate enough. So people were like, should I lock or should I not? Because the rates were going up and down like a roller coaster. And then I had some folks that really got scared because in the fall of this year, when we were hitting October and November, they were like, is this going to keep going up? Should I lock in at 7 or 8? This is crazy. And so we saw a lot of craziness there. But the good news is that rates are going down. We're seeing rates back in the 6s. And we're anticipating with an election.
It's been 9 consecutive weeks of rate drops, I think is the last thing that I saw.
9 weeks. I mean, if that doesn't give you some optimism, I don't know what will. And it certainly is showing in the numbers. A lot of people are coming out and starting to look at houses again. So I would say around October, November was the slowest time of the year. But even then, we had people that had to move, that been waiting in the sidelines for so long, or had certain issues in life that they had to move. So it definitely slowed down October, November a little bit. And naturally, school starts in August. So that's a normal progression, but it slowed down more than usual. And now, of course, we're going into an election year, and we anticipate they're saying 2 or 3 more rate drops in 2024. So all is well and optimistic, I think. But I just wanted to share this big picture of what a roller coaster ride it's been. And, I think when people ask me now, what do you think about all this? And I go, well, listen, my first house, I bought a house and it was 6.25, and I was happy to get 6.25.
Yeah.
So I think like we need to get back to a normal, even ground where, the new normal, what's normal is normal again, because we've had such insanity the last few years that we need some normalcy. Average days on market, we're seeing 45 days on the market. People are like, ooh, that's such a long time. I'm like, people before COVID and all that and the big migration to Florida, that was pretty standard, 30, 40. It wasn't completely crazy long time. It's just people got used to selling houses in 24 hours for such a long period of time that the new norm wasn't normal at all. It was outrageous. So I see the same for rates. I think we need to kind of have a balance here and see things, I'd love to see them in the 5s again. But who knows? We'll see.
I should have left it up as I was preparing for our live video tonight and looking at the different resources on rates. There were a few graphs that actually showed the historical averages from like 1970 to present, and just showed like how high some of those rates were and how some people at one point in time were getting 16% mortgage rates and, things like that. That was at some point normal. And it's not to say, because I think it's fair to be disappointed when someone that locked in a 3% mortgage rate a few years ago, and to try and stomach 7%, it might be a hard pill to swallow. But I do just think it's important to have perspective. I mean, all we have is the present. We can, we can look back on the rates and still we can't even fully predict where they're going to go. We have indicators and there are experts that give their opinion, but I love this graph and the graphs that even kind of zoom out even further to give that perspective. I love seeing this downward trend. You said, it should definitely, cause some optimism, hopefully. So
for sure. I think the tough pill to swallow for folks wasn't just the fact that the rates were so high. It was also that we had such massive appreciation here as well. And the pricing got so high. Supply and demand drove pricing up in specific areas. And I think in some areas, as we have more inventory and more supply, those prices will also kind of even out. We've seen it already in certain areas of Jacksonville. So that was the tough pill to swallow, because people were like, well, where's this recession or crash, if you will, and when a price is going to go down? And we really, I think, as we showed last week or the week before, we're still seeing like 2-3% growth year over year.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like our market is just proving that it's just going to continue to maintain the strength and the forward progression. I don't really see our Jacksonville market taking a hit for quite some time. Obviously, I'm not an expert, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we are not cheap by any means. We've gotten very pricey up here, but we are certainly a lot more affordable than the rest of Florida. I mean, you always hear about Miami, you always hear about Orlando, you always
Portland,
hear about Tampa,
Orlando.
yeah, or Tampa, or any of those regions. And honestly, I mean, if you look at the overall picture and cost of living, I think we're still remaining at the top. And that big thing right there that makes a difference is home insurance. South Florida is just way more susceptible to hurricanes and storms and floods, all the way up to now Central Florida. The Gulf is also notorious for hurricanes, so their insurances are outrageous all the way up the Panhandle. And we are still very affordable with home insurance, and that's our saving grace, I think, because we're seeing car insurance go up, home insurance go up, and I still think compared to the rest of Florida, Jacksonville is a great option. And then, of course, we have so much amazing job growth, which we're going to get into here shortly as well.
Definitely. It's all about that perspective.
100%. It's a big picture. You have to look at the big picture in order to make your deductions on all this. So I don't want to harp too much on interest rates anymore, but I do love seeing that graph. You're right, Emily, watching October to December and it going down, down, down. I love it. It's definitely great. It's giving a lot of optimism to a lot of my renters that have been renting for a long time and they want to be in a home.
Definitely. All right. So do you want to jump right in? Are we just going to go 1 month at a time for our 2023 review?
Yeah, let's do it. I think we did an awesome job preparing tonight here. And I really quick, I think I was on your list here. We're before we get right into January, I'm in Nocatee and I do a lot of business in the Nocatee area in St. Johns County, one of the more popular master plan communities. And certainly this year, it's been all about the new Seabrook collection. They sold way faster than I anticipated, regardless of the rates, because they opened up communities like Palm Crest, Seabrook Village, and then Coral Ridge. They also opened up Palmetto Cove, and Palmetto Cove is pretty much sold out. Palm Crest is pretty far along, sold out. And then Seabrook Village is just, trucking along, as well as Coral Ridge. So the development never really slowed down in our region. And now besides Seabrook Village, they're really focusing on a new community across from Pine Island Academy, which is called Crosswinds. There is a 40-foot lot product there with several builders, including Providence, the local builder, David Weekley. And then David Weekley and Toll Brothers is doing a villa, if you will, or what I would call a duplex, because they're connected. But the location's fantastic, and there are some pretty good incentives right now in Crosswinds to find a really nice 40-foot lot. That meaning, even though it's considered a 40-foot lot, you might find a pie shape that's wider and bigger. So there is opportunities there if you want to be close to the school. The Pine Island Academy K-8 school there. So I'll let you jump into January and get us started there.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this because I feel like sometimes when we look back on a year past, our brains can go to the negative. And even as we were preparing for this show, and I was looking for kind of the big happenings of 2023, a lot of the things that I was finding were negative. And I'm like, no, give me the good stuff. I don't care what you say. 2023 has been a good year. And so I'm excited to start our first thing for January with actually somewhere that's near and dear to my heart, which is Calford Chop House or Calford Steakhouse. I don't know if any of our viewers have have ever been there, if you're local, but it is an amazing steakhouse in Jacksonville. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just to show so you can see it. They actually have some photos on here. Greg, I know you haven't been yet, but they were recognized as one of the best steakhouses in Florida. So I don't know if you guys know this, but history of Jacksonville, the area actually used to be called Calford. So that's why you'll hear that name sometimes. And you've got kind of that like the murals. This photo that you see on this screen is taken from the main floor looking up to the top interior floor. But let's see if it'll let me show some images here. They're not the greatest as far as like size. I don't know how it looks. But very, very amazing, delicious steakhouse. It is pricey and for a great reason. So this is where my husband Travis and I go for anniversaries, Valentine's Day, that sort of thing. We know going in that we're going to be spending some money and it's worth it. The food is the best you'll have in town, I truly believe. And what's really neat is Calvert has a lot of really great history. So, Greg, I know you were doing some research. What did you find when you were looking up the history of Calvert?
Yes, that's what I love about real estate. It really does help you discover. I learned about, and I haven't eaten there yet, and I'm dying to, but I learned about them through the family that started this operation. And they're natives of Jacksonville. And historically, their family was known to, they were in the egg business, farming eggs, and Jacksonville being a great logistical location. They had a very successful family. I think it was Dixie Egg Company or whatnot from generations. And the most recent generation, this one of the sons, the owner of this restaurant, he bought this building. It was a bank originally in downtown Jacksonville from the 1900s, and he bought this building he bought it at an auction for, like I said, 170 grand. And then he got funding from the city to restore this building, this historic building from the 1900s. And it was a bank. And he wanted to make it a really high-end steak restaurant. And so they wanted to retain that history. They wanted top-notch service and good food. And so they've been recognized as one of the top steak restaurants in Florida, which is great because I don't think Jacksonville is known at all for great restaurants. And I think downtown Jacksonville, if you would agree, still has so much growth. It's not like a Miami or a Tampa or anything. There's just not a ton going on in downtown Jacksonville. And I don't say a ton, but it's not like, hey, let's go to downtown Jacksonville and party. You know what I mean? So this is a really cool place to go out, get dressed up, and experience a little bit of Jacksonville history. It's in downtown. It's great food. And so it's nice to see them being recognized next to some of the other top steak restaurants in Florida. I think they compared the next one was in Tampa.
It was, yeah. It's Burns Steakhouse in Tampa. They were recognized as one of the best steakhouses in Florida and tying as one of the oldest steakhouses in the state. And what I was reading is that, you know, obviously it feels good to be named as one of the best steakhouses in Florida, but they were actually really proud to be named one of the oldest because that history that you were just talking about was so important to them to preserve. So I thought that was really neat. This is another photo, not from the same article, but just of the exterior. So you can see that it kind of retained that original look and feel. Now, when you step inside, it's absolutely beautiful. It still has the historic feel, but obviously it's been redone and it's really nice. But we honestly, we absolutely love it. Again, if you're local, I cannot stress it enough. And they have like some seasonal, I feel like every time we go, the appetizers are different. It's always what's like in season, great cocktails. I mean, it's awesome. And you're right, because
Make
our
sure you have
downtown,
a reservation to get in there.
I would recommend it. We've been before and not had one, but it's a random night. I recommend it just so you don't have to worry about being turned away because I've made the mistake of not making a reservation and been turned away at the door. Not like, oh, sorry, but it was well, if you can find a spot at the bar and you look at the bar and it's packed full because this place is so awesome. But I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the downtown definitely has a long way to go. So it's nice to kind of have a reason to go downtown because other than like Jags games and stuff like that, it's rare that we're traveling downtown.
Florida Theater, though, is right down the road from there.
It is, yeah.
And that's where I went to see uh,
The
what is
Nutcracker.
Nutcracker with Ella, and we went to another restaurant nearby, and I did see Calford. So we are close to that, and the Florida Theater is pretty cool
Yeah.
besides the Jags games, but we definitely have a long ways to go, and I think that's exciting.
Yeah, and that's actually gonna be some of the fun stories that we cover for 2023 are some of the, developments that have been proposed for downtown. It like we've said, it does there's a long way to go, but people are trying. They're, making these proposals for really awesome, developments downtown. It's just a matter of them getting approved and funding and all of that. But that was the big believe it or not, the big thing for the month of January was Calvert getting named one of the best steakhouses in Florida, but I can't think of a better way to start the year than that.
Love it. Ready for a steak, and I'm going to put that on a date night for sure. We're getting dolled up, and I'm taking Monica to Calford's.
I love it. Okay, so next up, what I found really cool about our next story, because it really came full circle, is that there was a development being proposed in Southeast Jacksonville, kind of between Nocatee and E-Town. And this story came out in February, and it was just a proposal. And we've actually made some progress on this throughout the year. So I'm going to share that. So we've got developers behind Nocatee and E-Town that some of you guys know is the Park Group. There was a proposal for a 6,000 acre development. So this is all that there was at the time. I'm sorry, my dog is making her presence known.
Yeah.
um, but when this came out, this was just an idea. But Greg, I feel like this is your bread and butter, these new development communities. So I'll let you really dig in on it.
Sure. So, I mean, let's be honest. I did a whole video. If you haven't watched it, it's called What's After Nocatee. And I did it ages ago. I probably did it around this time when it was probably this article came out. Because what we were looking at is we were looking at permitting and rezoning. So the Davis family, which is the family that are responsible for all the Winn-Dixie stores, and I'm sure many other businesses, they own a lot of land around the area. And they basically sold the land or worked with Park Group to develop the land in Nocatee, and then also the land in E-Town, which are both developments by Park Group. They've been very successful, and I like the Park Group. I live in Nocatee. I sold a lot in E-Town. Their whole master plan community is they just do it really, really, really well. And so living in Nocatee, just north of us and between us and in E-Town, is all this land owned by the Davis family. And we noticed that they were getting rezoning done and permitting as many as 11,000 homes. So I believe, and this is speculation, that this is going to be the next major Park Group master plan community. They've kind of given us a little a glimpse, but I don't feel like it's the full story. And as a developer, I'm sure they have to be careful. They've kind of announced that Everrange is the new community that will be connected to E-Town. And they are only saying that it's only 1,500 homes spanning 1,000 acres. This project, I believe, is going to be way larger. And, Emily, I just feel like as a developer, I mean, look at all that land. It's massive. I think as a developer, they're not just going to go, hey, guys, we're going to develop 10,000 homes again, like we did in Nocatee. E-Town is only, I think, 17 or 1,800 with the Del Webb smaller homes. So that's not a big community. And I remember I told you last time, they put a huge commercial area in there with a Publix. And I go, Publix doesn't put a store in just for 16, 1700 homes. And there's nothing else around there. So I think that they are very careful to announce that they're doing X amount of homes, because what if the economy's not good? Are they going to keep developing to 10,000 homes? Obviously not. Yeah, that's the article, by the way, that I had in my video. It shows you, if you scroll down a little bit, it says right there, the rezoning to plan 5 residential units. And as I said on that video, there's going to be commercial apartments, townhomes, homes, but they're still maintaining, I think 30 or 40% of preserve still. And the Davis's farm is right next to that land. So it is Duval County. It's not St. Johns County, but I still think it will be an amazing project. And I'm really interested to see, where it goes. I'm super excited about it because in Nocatee, we have about 10,200 homes. They're going to 11,500. If you think this project, they're getting rezoning to do 10,500 units. That's almost as big as Nocatee. That's a 10, 15, 20-year project in the pipeline. So it's going to be super exciting. I have suspect there's some roads that are dead end in Nocatee that are very large roads near Timberland Creek. I suspect that those roads were left leading into this preserve because I believe they're going to be eventually connected to Nocatee as well. So E-Town, this community, and Nocatee, I think, are all eventually going to be interconnected. And it needs to be, because if you ever drive on Phillips Highway out in front of Wells Creek, that neighborhood, because it's going to be right behind Wells Creek, have you seen the bottleneck of traffic? Horrendous.
It's rough.
Yeah, so I almost think they need to connect all these master plan communities to make it another outlet for traffic so that we don't have to go into Phillips and deal with all the traffic going west on Racetrack, trying to get off Phillips. Yeah.
And you have the train tracks that run parallel to Phillips, and it backs up traffic all the time with trains coming through. So I couldn't agree more. And so the article that's showing right now is actually more information that was shared later in the year in November. And this originally, this kind of like story, originally developed in February and obviously continued throughout the year. And this is where we got this additional information. As you can see, it says November 29th. But what I want to point out, just as like a little note to anyone local who might be watching, is in the original story, someone local gave their opinion on this new development. And sometimes as a Jacksonville local, I can hear people's negative opinions, but I thought this was really neat. This resident said that they appreciate the current undeveloped land because that's something that we're starting to have not a lot of in Jacksonville, but at the same time acknowledge the need for more housing. And we 100% have a need for more housing in our area.
Yeah, I think that's a hard one. I have to say, at least the park group preserves as much land as they did. I think they preserved 40 or 50% of the land here in Nocatee. I'm a realist, so sometimes I'm like, well, how much of that was actually wetlands too? And they're like, oh, we preserved 40%, but really a lot of it was wetland. But regardless, we're still maintaining trees and trying to maintain some preservation as well. And it's inevitable. The growth is inevitable. And the reality is people don't understand or believe it, and they don't want it to happen. But we do have a lack of housing. I am one of the biggest, I fight about it all the time. I complain about it all the time, is the apartments. It drives me nuts. How many more apartments can you put in? Because it really creates high density. But at the same time, people are like, I don't want lots of development, but I want Trader Joe's and I want Target. Well, guess what? Trader Joe's and Target don't come into an area unless there's a certain amount of rooftops. So either we're going to grow or we're not.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm sorry, I'm having an untraditional night. My dog is being a little crazy, and she's chomping her bone very loudly in the background, so I'm gonna mute myself as
We're going to talk about dogs here in Jacksonville and Northeast Florida because that's super important.
yes, dog lover here. We got some really great news in December of this year, and it's crazy because we're literally only on February. We have so much to cover,
Yeah, let's
but
go.
there was some exciting news in your neck of the woods, Greg. Nocatee Town Center expanding was announced in February as well. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so again, I made a whole nother video on it. It's called Nocatee 2024 or 2023. I don't remember. One of those. It's pretty far up there, but I really go into the depth of how much expansion is going on. So I think the big thing is exciting for all us residents is having a steakhouse with a rooftop bar. Kind of cool. It's also a higher end steakhouse from what I understand, chop house. So that's super
Where would
exciting.
you have to go to if you wanted that kind of experience as a Nocatee resident?
Where would we? We'd have to go over to Ponte Vedra Beach. We'd have to go over the Intercoastal, go to Ponte Vedra Beach, and there's several options over there, which would be a 15-minute drive. I mean, you can drive in your golf cart and go have a formal steak dinner and a glass of wine and one glass of wine, and then drive your golf cart home. So that's kind of cool, and it has like a little lake or pond, if you will, and then preserve. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like. It's near we have a really good Mexican restaurant. We have a First Watch. We also had a really nice, we have Cotillo's, a local favorite Italian restaurant, and it's very good. So we're starting to see some more dining here in our area, which was very much needed. So I'm super excited about that. And there's a lot more commercial development coming in as well as a hotel that we didn't really want, but we needed because we don't have any hotels around here. So there's a lot of development in the pipeline commercial for Nocatee, but I'm not gonna lie, a lot of locals are like, can't wait to see this steakhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like any new food option is always exciting. I love to go out to eat. And my thoughts on the hotel, I can understand from a resident perspective not wanting a hotel, but here's a positive perspective. If there's a hotel, at least you don't have to host your family, right? They can have their own little space. I mean, we're coming out of the holidays where everyone was having their houses way more full than normal. If there's a hotel, there is an option for them where they can rest their head somewhere else for the night and everyone can get a breather.
Yeah, when family says they want to come visit, you'd be like, great, we have a Hampton Inn Suites, and they'd be like, oh, we were hoping to stay with you. I'm like, I guess we won't be seeing you. No, just kidding.
That's so great. So let's see what is next. This is kind of more geared toward Jacksonville and the downtown development. I really think anything, well, I guess I shouldn't say anything, but at the same time, I feel like anything coming to downtown Jacksonville is a positive thing. And I will go ahead and share this screen here. The University of Florida is looking to open a graduate campus in Jacksonville, which is really, really exciting. This would be a $100 million development that's expected to drive the development of both downtown and our regional economy. Obviously, this is a satellite campus, and they would offer classes in medicine, business, and engineering. And what I thought was really neat about this is that the classes that are being offered would not be offered at other campuses. So it's going to drive students to that campus, which is really nice. It would be in downtown Jacksonville, but they have not yet selected a site for it. And this, again, this piece of information originally came out in February. Earlier, I was looking to see if there was any updates on this. And I learned that in November, or I guess October, at the end of October, right there at Florida Georgia Weekend, Mayor Deegan actually met with the UF president. And based on what I read, it wasn't still super clear if it was like a 100% yes, but it seems like city council's moving forward with this. It says that the city council approved $20 million in spending for the campus, which is part of a $50 million 3-year allotment. Again, there are still some missing details. Don't know exactly where it's going to go. So it's a lot of money, to be putting forward, not being 100% sure on location. But I'm really excited. I can't remember who said it, but I was reading something about this. And they said when you think of every major city, there is a university, sometimes more than one. If you think of Atlanta, you've got Georgia State University and Georgia Tech. You think of Orlando, you've got UCF. You think of Miami, you've got Miami and US. Like all the major cities have universities. So I think this could be a really good thing for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we do have University of North Florida. It's a large university. I think it's more of a commuter school. I think that this has a lot of correlation with UF Health, which I think got bought out recently. So we have the UF Health, the hospitals here. And so I think this was highly a graduate program that had connection to the hospitals for medicine. And a graduate program is just going to draw younger and more people to the area and to the downtown area, which I think will help revitalize it tremendously. UNF is definitely more of a commuter school for sure. Would you agree with that?
I do.
So it would be nice to have a prestigious program like U of F's an amazing school here in Florida. So it'd be awesome to have that there. So better keep going here. 8:35.
I know. Okay. One more thing. Speaking of downtown, really exciting, just more development. And so this is what we mean when we said earlier that downtown has a long way to go, if you will, but we're taking steps in that direction. So we have breaking of ground for the Artia Apartments. This is going to be a $93 million project on Jacksonville's South Banks. Beautiful photos you can see. It would have 240 units. There they are, breaking ground. Pretty cool. I want to get to the photo.
340 or 240?
I think 340. You're right. My apologies.
No worries.
So you can see here where this is located. So really, really great location right there at the water. And I do feel like this area is starting to become a lot more walkable. In fact, I think it's like the third Thursday of every month. They have sip and stroll, and it's along the South Bank. And you get like a sip and stroll cup, if you will. And they have like little pop-up bars set up throughout, and you can like walk around along the river walk. And so it's just really neat. They're definitely putting a lot of effort into this area. But this is what it's supposed to look like. So yes, 340 units. It'll have a pool, clubhouse, 24-hour fitness center, rooftop lounge, just all the stuff you would want to see. I'm interested to know how much they'll be renting for. That information I did not see. But I mean, it's a big deal. The developers, they entered a 99-year lease with JTA for that site. And it's going to be a $93 million multifamily project. So really, really big project that I'm excited to see go into downtown.
Yeah, and to add to that, that just means when developers are putting that kind of money into it, they see a massive future and growth in this city. I'd be crazy to say that I don't want it to be that way, but we're going to be like a mini Atlanta in the next 10 years. There's just so much opportunity. I've talked to so many business owners that brought their businesses here, and logistically, and there's just so many industries here, and logistically, it just makes sense. Also, to add to the downtown thing, by the way, we went on there's a lot of microbreweries in Jacksonville that people may not know about. And you can get a little microbrewery passport, and you can do a microbrewery tour as well in downtown Jacksonville if you want to get a feel for the real old school city that it is. So another cool thing. And if you have an apartment at Artia, don't have to worry about getting home.
Yeah, you can just walk right on home. I love that. Okay, switching it up away from downtown Jacksonville to St. John's. We're in April now, by the way. So that groundbreaking came out in April, and something else happened in the real estate world in April, but in St. John's County, where Pulte Group acquired 51 lots in St. John's, in Cordova Palms. And I know, Greg, you actually had an interesting story, but let me go ahead and share that. So here is the plan. You can see they've got 43 foot wide and 53 foot wide lots. And yeah, tell us more.
Yeah, so Pulte is known for their Dell Webs and their 55 and older. They're a major national builder. It was interesting to me because this was actually a Dream Finders community in St. Johns County in St. Augustine off of Phillips, and it got a little publicity. And I had customers that built in there, and it got a little publicity on the local news because Cordova Palms is also close to an old school local Jacksonville or St. Augustine gun range. And believe it or not, some of the bullets from the gun range are ending up into the neighborhood. So they made the local news, and sure enough, they made arrangements to change that gun range to shoot another direction. But as crazy as it sounds, we found bullets going into new homes in that neighborhood. Sorry, Pulte Homes. I know that's been straightened out, but Pulte Homes is known usually for 55 and older, but I haven't sold in there yet. But great opportunities to be very close to downtown St. Augustine, not too close where you're dealing with flooding or traffic or anything, but close enough to go there and enjoy St. Augustine, or even be able to drive north into Ponte Vedra and enjoy Jacksonville as well. So it's a great location. And there's some decent products they're offering at a reasonable, affordable price compared to the rest of Florida.
Yeah, so just as a little sidebar, this is what Greg was just talking about. Are they being built in the line of fire? But again, as Greg just said, it's great to hear that some changes were made so that we are keeping families safe.
Yeah, they rectified the situation immediately. It was just uh, an oversight. I don't know. Anyway, but things happen, development happens, and so I'm glad you showed the article so that people don't think I'm making this stuff up.
Of course, of course. I've got your back. What's the saying? Keep the receipts.
Yeah.
Okay, another big headline. Also, lots happening in April. I was really excited to see this one. A manufacturer looks to build a $270 million facility at Cecil Commerce Center. So Cecil is going to be in like Northwest Jacksonville. So you can see here is this like very rough draft of what that would look like. So basically, there is Catino Group. They're a manufacturer and distributor of natural stone and architectural surfaces. They are looking to build a, like it says, $270 million facility. Greg, I know you were doing your research on that, so I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so this is an old naval base with an airstrip, and it's just amazing land. And what's promising about this article to me is that this is an international company. I think they're based out of Spain, and to think that they're bringing a manufacturing plant to here and paying what they're paying for the land is just awesome. It's an unused old naval base. It's Jacksonville is very well known for amazing logistics. We have railway going right through there. Amazon has one of the largest distribution centers here in Jacksonville, and that's close to this location, I believe. And then also we have one of the larger ports as well. So we have great shipping, and then we have fantastic rail. So that combination with the cost is drawing a lot of international business commerce to our area. So this is a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this is not a short project. I'm really excited about all that's to come in the many years that are going to stem from this. The facility aims to create 180 jobs by the end of 2028. So in the next 5 years, with an average wage of just over $55,000 a year. So I'm really excited about all the opportunity it's bringing to the area.
For sure.
Okay, are we out of April? Let's see. No, we have two more hot headlines to cover in the month of April, but they are good ones. Greg, you mentioned this earlier about people moving to Florida from all over. In fact, you just met with, was it a couple from, you said, Canada?
Yeah, we had folks from, is it Ontario, near the Detroit border in yesterday, planning a move over here. And they're not the first family I've helped from Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to mention. I'm sorry, I forgot Canada.
No,
We have a
no.
lot of international people moving here too, believe it or not, thanks to our channel. Not just because of our channel, but anyway, yeah, people are coming out of different areas as far as Canada. They're seeing opportunity in Florida. They have family here. Everybody has a grandma in Florida, retired in Florida, but they have family here. They see the job opportunities that we have here, and this confirms it. We have the lowest unemployment rate. I think we would have some of the greatest employment opportunities in the state of Florida, because Florida is considered, or most of Florida has always been considered mostly a retirement state. It's very transient. It's a service industry vacation spot. It's got Disney. And I think Jacksonville is quite the opposite. We have so much massive industry here and so many major corporations. And there's so many opportunities for jobs, and the cost of living is still a little more reasonable than some of the other parts of Florida.
Yeah, that's what these two like major headlines that came out in April are just sharing with us. So this first one is about unemployment, which I think is just what leads to the next major headline, that Jacksonville is among one of the top 20 moving destinations of 2023. Now that second like major headline was by Pods. If you guys are familiar with Pods, or the big like moving square things that you can ship across country or whatever. So I think that they have valid information, obviously, but I would dare to say that Jacksonville, so they rank Jacksonville as number 8 on that list of top 20 moving destinations. But I would dare to say if we had maybe even a more inclusive survey, that we would rank higher because of our low our low unemployment rates and all the things that you were mentioning earlier, as far as the port and international airport. We've got an NFL football team. Like, there's just so much going on in Jacksonville.
Yeah, and you said number 8, meaning in the country.
Yes, meaning in the country,
Yeah,
number 8 as one
that's
of
still
the,
very respectable. Let's face it, that's awesome.
yeah. The other ones were, we had 6 actual places from Florida on that list, also including Sarasota, Orlando, Ocala, and Tampa. Sarasota being number 2 on the list, which was surprising to me. But maybe I just need to wake up to Sarasota. I don't know. But we did beat Tampa on the list, which I was also surprised pleasantly about. I thought that was really neat.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sarasota it's crazy to me. It really is. It's so beautiful over there, and I do compete with a lot of people looking at Lakewood Ranch area compared to Nocatee. I don't think it's
Mm.
comparable. It's a lot different, but Sarasota is beautiful. It is on the Gulf, and I think I didn't know there was a lot of job opportunity. I'm not really sure of the industry there at all, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah. Well, let's jump out of April and into May. This was a headline that I shared with Greg recently, viewers, that he did not know about. So I was really excited because this is someone that we both really, really like. So our area saw a record $16.25 million home sale in Ponte Vedra Beach to none other than Ed Milet. I thought this was so stinking cool. If you guys do not know who Ed Milet is, he is in the, I would say, personal and professional development space. You should just look him up. He has an amazing podcast. He's on YouTube. He's really great. But this was just really great for our area. I mean, this was a record for, I'm pretty sure, just like Jacksonville in general, not even just Ponte Vedra Beach. An almost 8,000 square foot home. I actually have more. I pulled details on this because I thought it was really neat.
Yes, he's well known for his book right now. Is it Just One More or something One More?
I think
Scroll
it's,
down, it'll say it in
oh,
the article.
yeah, I was gonna say what's your one more, but that's a different
No,
podcast.
so he left, as it says there, Chino Hills, California. I listened to his podcast and he was saying, hey, you know what?
Power of one more.
What's it called?
The power of one more.
Yeah, The Power of One More. I have that book. Fantastic book. It was funny because I listened to his podcast and I think he was in the, is it Newport Beach or is it Chino Hills the same? I don't know, but he was in California and he was complaining about the taxes and everything, and he was moving to Florida. I never dreamt in a million years it'd be Ponte Vedra Beach, because we're not like a big celebrity type place, and we're not yet, if you will. And if you think there, we read the article, it's 1.2 acres on the beach, a beautiful brand new home for 16 million or 13 million or 16 million.
16.
That's chump change when you're coming from like Newport Beach or even Miami. It's 50 to 100 million now, or Palm Beach or any of those areas. So it's nice to see that someone like that has moved to the area and recognized the beauty of this area. And it's just crazy. I think those homes along there, we would be like, ooh, one went for $3 or $4 million. That was a record. Now we're talking 16 million. So we're on the map now, and there's still a lot of opportunities for people with deep pockets like Ed to come and build themselves a beautiful home in Florida for a lot less than some of the other areas that offer anything close remotely as beautiful as that.
Yeah, no, I thought it was amazing. And you're right. It was Chino Hills, California, that he's coming from. And it also said that the previous like sales record was actually in Fernandina Beach at 13.3 million. And that was in October of 2022. So this is really big. And I did not know this. This was all public information, but I thought it was really cool. The sellers, Sanjay and Melody Lal, bought the house in 2021. He was a former assistant coach for the Jaguars, but then is now coaching for the Seahawks. So obviously had to sell because can't coach for the Seattle Seahawks while you live in Jacksonville, Florida, or Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. And now Ed and his wife Christina get to or Christiana get to call it their home. So I just thought that was really neat. And it's just so cool to see such a big name, like you said, kind of just recognize the value in our little slice of heaven here. So I thought that was really neat.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right. So another kind of sad story. After a decade in business, Black Sheep Restaurant closed its doors this year. They are owned by, or were owned by, the same group as Orsay and Bellwether, which Greg, your family loves. And it was so sad. I mean, I loved it. Travis and I went there all the time. I was explaining earlier that Black Sheep developed a love for poutine in me, which is so weird. But they just had really great food, a great vibe, but they just never really recovered after COVID. So that was really sad to see. Holy cow, we're getting like so close on time. We're going to jump to our just hot stories here. Okay, so Black Sheep closed its doors. What else happened? This is a big one for me. And I do think that this kind of led to me ending up here working with Greg in Jacksonville, living in Jacksonville, Florida team. So I'm actually going to share this one for us to see. But for those of you that do not know my past, I was a high school teacher. And so this story came out this year about the special magistrate recommending a pay increase for St. Johns County teachers, as the district lost more than 130 employees. And I think it said around 90 something, 92, maybe 90 of those were teachers. I think that this is so important, especially with the growth that St. Johns County is seeing, because we're supposed to get 5 new schools in the next 3 years. And I think it said that they wanted to hire 200 teachers a year. And this St. Johns County has been known as one of the #1 school districts in the state of Florida for a very long time. I think now we're #2, but very, very high performing schools. And it's just a shame that our teachers are actually some of the lowest paid teachers in the state, which is actually what led to me leaving that position so that I could gain a little bit better quality of life and spend more time with my daughter. What's really interesting about this, so our school system has a union, and basically the union negotiates with the school district for higher pay, and they could not come to terms. And so what happens is then this goes to the magistrate court. They recommend to the school district to increase teachers' pay, but the school district can still say no and they can still decline that, which in my mind kind of seems silly to even go through all the negotiations because the school district already said no. So just because the court is suggesting it, are they really going to do anything? I don't know. I would hope to see that. I think it will continue to bring a lot of quality teachers to our area if we can pay our teachers appropriately. But that story is near and dear to my heart because it led me to here, to being on Living in Jacksonville, Florida team. So yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm happy that you joined me. I'm super blessed to have you. I am disappointed in the fact that our futures of our students are um, in demise because teachers aren't being paid appropriately. I'd like to really delve into that more on future shows and talk to the appropriate people from the union side and from the school board side, because I know it has a lot to do with also funding and the state funding in Florida. We're a retirement state and we are not funded maybe as appropriately as other states because we have a larger retirement population that are not voting to fund more education as their benefit. So there's a lot that goes on the higher level. So I'd like to learn, share, and discuss more of that here in 2024. And bummer, Emily, that you left the teaching world, but God, I'm blessed to have you. So thanks for joining.
I know it was really a bittersweet decision. I'm so grateful to be here, but it really, it is tough because I know people that, and this sounds dramatic, but that truly suffer in their role as a teacher, but they remain because it's for the kids, and that's why you won't see, you hear of some organizations that have unions and people go on strike. You never hear of that happening with a teachers union because these teachers are so dedicated to their students. And it is a really difficult decision to say, you know what, no, I am going to put myself first or my family first or my mental health first. So I think that would be a really great conversation, especially since, St. John's, these teachers work so hard to keep our district in that number one spot and keep our students learning at the highest level so that they can go on to do whatever they want with their lives. So excited for that conversation. But to keep us moving along, this was a really interesting headline that came out this year. I think a really big deal for Florida. So, Florida actually passed New York to become the second most valuable real estate market. So, I thought that was really neat. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me. It really is. But I'm still getting calls from New York. As I said from the beginning of this show tonight, I would say that the majority of my relocation folks are from New York, upstate, from the city, wherever. They're moving out still in droves. They're complaining about the tax dollars just not serving them, being taxed to death and not getting anything in return. So, it's supply and demand. If everybody keeps moving here, even after COVID is well over, there's only so much real estate. And so I think Florida is like the new California, if you will. And I would just warn people to tell you, if you're waiting, be aware of that because you may be waiting a very long time and might end up paying more for whatever property you're speculating is going to go down in the future. So, definitely a little surprised, and I'm like, hey, let's slow it down. It's slowed down a bit, but keep that in mind, folks, that people are still moving here, and if you're looking to buy a property and you're waiting for prices to go down, be aware. Thanks for
Yeah,
bringing it up. I need to know
yeah,
that.
of course. Guys, we have so many things that we could talk about right now. I mean, it's just crazy. So much happened in our area this year. I'm looking at all of our notes, trying to make sure we get the ones that really stood out to us the most. I know we've been kind of moving at lightning speed. It's hard to recap an entire year in 60 minutes. But I will say one thing, Greg, you mentioned at the beginning, because my dog was being a little brat, like she is. She's sitting next to me right now. Like, who, me? a lot of this development that we've been talking about in our area has been residential, but I was really excited to see this was shared in December this year that the block, it's called the Block Jacks, is bringing food vendors, children games, and canine social. If you're not familiar, canine social is a dog park, if you will, a local dog park. They are bringing their first dog park and bar into this area. So it's called the Block Jacks. There are more. Let me see if I can scroll down. So this is kind of a rendering of what it would look like. Really neat looking. So there's going to be an outdoor dining area. They had like a big screen TV with, of course, the Jacks game on. So to advertise that you can go and enjoy watching the Jacks game here, but a play area for children and a place for your dogs. We only really have a few places like this in the area. Canine Social itself, you've got Brewhound Dog Park out near the Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach area, but it is not by any means this vast. And I am really excited about this.
Yeah, I think it's a cool concept. It was basically, so just so everybody knows, Northeast Florida is one of the dog friendliest areas in the United States. My dog trainer moved here from the Midwest, and he said the very good reason for that is because we are so dog friendly. You'll notice that at a lot of the restaurants, you can go take your dog and sit outside in the verandas. Our beaches are very dog friendly. And so this concept was not just a place for you to go with your dogs and enjoy a social evening, but also a place for the kids. So they were kind of taking a pet lovers environment and also creating a family atmosphere for children as well. So a very cool combination concept that they took from a proof of concept, I think from Raleigh, North Carolina, the article said, in another area. So super exciting. Another awesome thing that makes our area so eclectic and cool. Like, I like to think of ourselves as like, following in Raleigh's footsteps, because Raleigh's blown up in the Carolinas. I used to live in Austin, Texas. I went to UT. That was a very cool place before it got kind of crazy, but it's a very unique, cool vibe. And this is what makes us special here in Jacksonville, stuff like this.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So we are at the end of our hour. Greg, don't send us off just yet. I wanted to ask you quickly if there was anything else that you wanted to hit on before we call it a night. But I had one more special thing too that I wanted to share at the end. But I'm going to let you go first in case there's any like really important things that you think I missed.
I just want to make note. We always talk about hurricane season here in Florida.
Mm.
You had in August, you mentioned Hurricane Idalia made landfall. And again, I just want to make it clear that we really didn't notice a lot of, it didn't affect us very much. If anything, it was affecting flooding in the St. Augustine area and in the areas by the river. So I just want to make note of that, that again, we've been super blessed here in Jacksonville where we haven't been hit. I think the last hurricane was 30, 40, 50 years ago. And we've been super blessed that when these storms come through our area, that, our biggest concerns are being near water and dealing with storm surges and flooding. So it's always important to have a real estate professional and also contact a good local insurance agent to make sure that you're in the right spot. You're not going to be affected by flooding. It's going to be a law soon that you're going to have flood insurance, and we still remain some of the cheapest home insurance in the state of Florida compared to South Florida or the Panhandle or whatnot. So that was one big thing I wanted to make sure that we brought up. Also, I know we get a lot of flack for the Jags, not being consistent and having some really bad games, but having it. But it's a big part of our city now. We do love our Jags, and my wife used to live in Tampa and used to be a Bucks fan, and she was just saying, when we went to the game last game, we could use a new stadium. So I know there's proposals out there. You had an article on that. I would love to see that in the future and what that looks like as well. I think
Yeah.
that super cool. So
I would absolutely love to see it. I'd also love to see some growth around the stadium. This is just from what I could tell right now, it's just a proposal. So they've released these renderings. It would be a $1 billion renovation, it says. So let's see what else. I have some just like footnotes here. It would cost 1.4 billion. The sports team is valued at over 650 million. What I thought was really neat, because my husband is a die-hard Jaguars fan. I mean, he's born and raised Jacksonville. This man loves the Jags, and when we do not win, it's not a fun day in our house, which is why we're going to beat the Panthers this weekend. Okay, it's a home game. We better win. They're like 2-9.
the Panthers, we're in big trouble.
It's gonna be bad. So, but no, we're gonna win. I have faith. But I asked him, I said, what's the deal with the new stadium? And he was like, I don't think they've said much more other than releasing the renderings. And I'm like, so are they gonna build a new one? Are they tearing this one down? And he said, I'm pretty sure it was that they're gonna rip it down to the bones and build a new one. And then my next thought was, well, then where are the Jags gonna play? Obviously, this isn't gonna be a quick project, and they're not just going to not play anymore. So I thought it was really neat. They have a list of potential temporary facilities. So there's expanded baseball grounds of Jacksonville. So if you're familiar with the Jumbo Shrimp, that would keep it here in the area. And then also expanded Hodges Stadium at UNF as an option. I don't really know how I feel about that. I feel like the Jags deserve a little more. But they're talking Orlando, Gainesville, maybe even Daytona Beach. And then of course we do have 2 games typically in London. So that will be our home for at least 2 weeks. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah. I think again, it's all part of the revamp of downtown Jacksonville and just making it a killer city, like the rest of the big cities in the country. We deserve it. And I think it will do a lot of morale, just having a nice modern new stadium. So cool to see initiatives like that and numbers with a B following it. So it can only make things better for us, create more jobs, bring vitality, and really revamp the city. Jacksonville is very rich with history. We should not forget about that. But at some point in time, we do have to modernize, and the stadium would be killer.
Yeah, it would be really awesome. Any other big topics from this year that we need to include in our 2023 recap?
No, I just want to say I can't believe it's gone so quickly, and I'm really like, I haven't even taken a breath. We have people after Christmas immediately calling and visiting now during the holidays as part of their trip to Orlando and considering our area. So I'm super excited. I have a lot of customers building right now that are going to be done with their building process here in 2024. So I've been super, super blessed to all of you that are that have been following me and my customers that are using my services. I would love to be your resource of choice. Me and my team that I'm formulating, we really work hard to treat you as we would want to be treated, and getting you all the information to help you make the right decisions for you and your family and serve you in 2024. It's been a blast for 2023. We've been super blessed. And Emily, you've been such an amazing addition. I can't thank enough for having me.
I'm so excited to be on the team. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So when are we going to see again? Next year?
Yeah. But before we go, there are 2 things that we have to mention that happened this year that were pretty amazing. And I can't let us end without mentioning them. So first of all, look at this beautiful family right here. Greg, you had a really awesome thing happen this year in like November, I think. Tell us about it.
Yes, we renewed our vows in the Caribbean. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I was talking to my Canadian family yesterday, and I said, "Hey, I'm an import. I came from the Caribbean. I grew up in St. Martin in the Caribbean, and so I wanted to renew my vows to my wife in front of my daughters. It was supposed to be 10 years later, but ended up being 11 years later. So we celebrated 11 years renewing our vows on the beach in St. Martin, and my daughters were part of that procession, and it was super special. So didn't know you were going to put that picture up there, but thank you
I
for
love it. This is such a huge deal. This year, 2024, will be married for 5 years. And I just think it's like so awesome. You hear people, they get to that 10-year, 11-year, 15. It's just like so inspiring.
Yes.
So I,
The family is why we do what we do. My wife is definitely the driving force in all the success, and my daughters. I want to be I want to show them what it is to be a good dad and a good husband. And so this was all planned by me. It took me a long time to plan it. And my wife usually plans everything. So it worked out awesome. And I was glad for them to witness us renewing our vows, making our promises to each other again. So it was awesome.
yeah.
And so let's throw you on the bus, under the bus, and let's see what happened to you this year.
So this year, I could not agree more. Family is why we do everything. And this year, I welcomed my daughter. So this is little Sailor May right here. My husband's like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?" No, this was the craziest moment of my life. She is now 5 months old, and it has just been the best thing to ever happen to me. Another big reason of why I ended up here with you on this team is wanting to have more time to spend with her that I didn't have as a teacher. And I cannot be more grateful. Like right now, she is home from daycare for however long. And until her daycare starts back, they're out. And I get to just hang out with her at home. And it's nice because I have the flexibility to do that being on this team. So it's been a wild ride in 2023, and I am just so excited to see what 2024 has in store for us personally and for the Living in Jacksonville, Florida team. I think it's going to be an awesome stinking year.
Yes, we're going to see massive growth. And again, I just want to make note. I think that's one of the things that make us so special is that we do really cherish family. And I think that's what drew you to working alongside with me, partnering up, because you knew how important my daughters were to me. And
Yeah.
seeing now you get to experience that with your daughter. Family's first, no matter what. And that's a principle we hold dear to here. So, all right. Until next year, we'll be meeting again. Maybe
Easy
next year.
to say see you next year. Is that too
See
cheesy?
you
I'm going to
here.
say it anyways.
And for anybody that's watching the recording of this, please put a comment. Anything that you heard tonight that you have questions about, or you want to subscribe. If you're thinking about moving the area, call, text, email. Information will be in the comment pinned or in the description. I'm always like, what is in the description? If you're not a YouTuber, in the description below is all the information that we shared tonight. And call us, text me, email me. I do answer my phone still. I haven't gotten too crazy busy. My folks yesterday, we're just so worried. We think you're just too busy. Absolutely not. I'll make time for you. And we have a growing little team here. So call us. Certainly would love to serve you in the new year, whether you're thinking about listing your home or moving to the area. Would love to be your resource of choice and help you out. So until next year, stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you in the new year.
See you in 2024.
2024, baby.